Okay, recording in process. So this is an interview with S.J. Tucker, and I went and I made some notes of questions to ask.
Okay,
And I
perfect.
wanted to start out with a little background for folks who don't know you. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, my name is SJ Tucker. I like for my friends and fans to call me Sooj. I have one of those fantastic Southern female compound first names. It's Susan Jane for everyone who's wondering, who's dying to know what the SJ stands for. I grew up in
Ah,
Southeast Arkansas, and I've been a full-time independent touring singer-songwriter for the past 10 and a half years, and it's been a super, super rewarding life. I am geek friendly, pagan friendly, LGBTQ friendly, everybody friendly until proven otherwise. And I like to, in particular, write new songs about old stories and stories that inspire me. I've done a lot of book soundtrack type action for Kat Valenti's work, and she's just wonderful. It's super, super inspiring as a human being and as an author. I'm really, really rich
I saw that actually.
in author good friends, and they give me a whole lot of stuff to write songs about. So super, super geeky about folklore in particular.
Yeah, I saw
But
that you're
just
doing a lot of
just
those collaborations. It's really neat that, and there's actually a strong history of collaborations between bands and authors. Like Michael Moorcock did stuff with Blue Oyster Cult, like Black Blade and such. I mean, there's a big history of that, so it's
Yes.
very neat.
And there's a whole bunch of authors who are no slouch as musicians themselves.
Oh yeah.
One of my favorite jam sessions ever was with Charles DeLint and his wife Marianne in a hotel lobby
Oh
in,
wow.
in Maryland, and we just sang to each other until a million people joined in, and then the hotel eventually had to ask us to stop. And I think that happened about 1 in the morning, but that was at FairyCon, and a whole lot of people remember that night, and I am no exception, and I love telling that story.
That sounds like a lot of fun. It must have been, and I love that. Yeah, people forget that, people who are known for one thing often have other interests, and
Yes.
you don't always know just what they're going to be into and what they do and what other talents they have. They get known for one thing, and I think that's a shame because people are much more multifaceted than that.
Exactly. And see, that makes me want to interview you right back, because all I know about you is that you occasionally are cool enough to interview me and play really, really fantastic music. So what's your superpower, David, that a lot of people who listen to your podcast might not know about?
Well, pretty much everybody who listens to my stuff knows these days that I do a lot of my own costuming. I wear a lot of steampunk these days. And
Yes.
oh yeah, I can actually I'll give you a link at some point afterwards. I make my own costuming, and the last few years I've actually been in the local pumpkin parade as my
Oh,
wife and I as the pumpkin heads, and I do a little bit of steampunk, uh, pumpkin head to walk in the parade and everything. It's fun as anything.
that sounds amazing.
But
I
yeah,
need to be at this parade.
pretty much just about any time I go out these days, I get at least three or four people say nice hat or nice whatever you're wearing.
That means you're living right, as far as I'm
I
concerned.
think so. It makes people smile, and I think
Yeah,
that's the best part.
if part of your mission statement is wearing things that not only make you smile but lift somebody else's day, that's a good plan,
And make
I
people
think.
say, "I want to do that. How do you do that?"
Yes,
And I
yes,
like that.
yes,
Inspire people.
yes.
Speaking of inspired, I saw that you got your start because you were, and I love this. I looked at your wiki, and by the way, I updated your wiki because it didn't have your latest album on there.
Thank you for doing that, because I always forget. I never, I do not make time. I am a naughty Wikipedia
Well, there's
upkeeper.
there's so much to do. But it says here that you were disgusted by mainstream employment. So
Well,
you,
that's certainly accurate.
so
I'm not
you,
going to
so
lie
you
about
became a
that.
singer and songwriter and guitarist in '97, and according to this, you would have been about what, 17?
Yes, I was 17. I was just starting college at that point. That was also the summer of '97 was when I had my first actual concert. Summer. So 17 and 18, I was having my first shows and getting my theater degree at the same time. I have a BA in
Another.
theater, if anyone's curious.
My
Yes.
wife had my wife was in theater for a bit, and I actually was going for a theater minor, so I understand. So yeah.
So it's the thing that really helped me, I think, was knowing what I wanted in the first place. And
it
that is not a luxury that everybody has. And a
it
lot of
isn't.
people, when I try to encourage them, and we're just face to face after a concert or whatever, and I say, well, the hardest part is just figuring out what you want. As soon as you get that figured out, then it gets a lot easier. At least it did for me. And most everybody that I say that to gets this light in their eyes. You can see the fire catch, and they go, "Is that all?" But a couple of people have been really crestfallen when I've told them that, because they really, really don't know what they want. But I certainly hope that in having that discussion, that at least I help them realize that they don't know what they want, so that they can then start the search and not spiral further down into, I have no idea what I want to do. Don't do that. Don't fall down the unhappiness rabbit hole. Look up and see all of the stars that are just waiting for you to pick one out.
Well, not everybody needs to know right away. I mean, one of the things I've always said, you know how they say when you're young, you'll understand when you're older?
Right.
It really is that way. And I found that it actually is that way, that when you're older, you do understand more. And sometimes if you plant that seed, it takes a while to grow. And then one day suddenly they understand. And it's not just when you're a kid. If you plant that seed of, interest, of art, of, tolerance, of all these things,
oh, yes,
sometimes those things come back, and people think back and they suddenly understand. And I think that's what you're doing there by telling them that. You're basically, the people who don't know, it'll come back to them later when they do know.
Yes.
I think,
I see. I think you're right. And speaking of when you're older, can I just say adulthood is weird. I just got done doing my taxes last night, and it's got to be a marathon for me, because math and I have never been the best of buddies.
What's adulthood?
So I have to do it.
I don't do that.
I don't adult particularly well. And some people would argue that that's a musician thing. That's one of the myths that I'm working actively to dispel by having my act together and doing my taxes as part of that. But I have to vent a little bit, because it's so bizarre for me to have to go into full on adult mode and just get a couple of things done. But after I get it done, then I can go back to, singing about fairy tales and stuff. So really it balances out.
Well, I think you can be responsible and still be childlike. I think that
yes.
you can have fun.
You absolutely can.
Like you said,
and
it's balance.
Yes, those of us who do not forget how to play, and obviously not everyone in the world, in various areas of the world, various more tense places in the world that are still undergoing political and military evolution and all that horrible stuff. Not everyone has the option to remember how to play.
That's one of the things.
Not everyone has the option to remember how to play, but I think those of us that do, and who work toward getting the world to a point where everyone can get a little bit of playtime, whatever that means to the individual, are making a difference.
I think that's one of the things that gets lost when you're struggling, is the ability to just play. And I think that if you're going to have life, you should have at least some fun with it too. It's not just survival.
Yes. And if you can just carve out 5 minutes to do something that makes you smile, and even if it gets classified as a guilty pleasure by everyone else who knows you, you don't have to think of it as that. Guilty pleasures do not have to be guilty pleasures.
No, they don't. I agree. Nope. I hate that term. I feel no guilt about any of my pleasures. Sorry.
Good for you. Good for you. At least one meme on Twitter will back you, because I saw it go by on my feed the other day. So we are not alone in that.
So I see that coming up. You've been involved in a lot of different communities that have really supported you. You mentioned a few, actually, the LGBT community, pagan community. I noticed there's a steam. What is it? Well, no, what was the term?
Mythpunk.
Mythpunk fantasy, which I love that term. That's a wonderful term, And the fairies, I love that sort of thing, because I do my own thing when I say steampunk. I do my own weird thing with it. I blend in a lot of Western and Australian and different elements and do my own thing. And I think that's important, that you be able to do your own. And I've seen that you work with a lot of different communities. How does that feel to work with so many different wonderful groups?
Well, there's no better way to keep your own art alive than by bringing it to different people and letting them inspire you right back. And if we keep concentric circles going and interlocked circles going of inspiring each other, I love that so much, and I love to see it.
Oh yeah.
And so and why wouldn't you want to have a whole list of places where you are welcome? To come and sing or come and share anytime. And I have a difficult time not liking people. My problem my problem is that I
That is
have
not a fault.
far too many friends and loved ones and dear fans and associates and colleagues of every stripe across the world at this point to keep up with everyone. And the internet is a great boon for me in that I do not think that I would be considered someone who has her act together in a time when letter writing was still very much an important part of people's lives, because I would never stop writing letters to people. If I lived not so very long ago and had the friend and fan base that I do now, I would be in serious trouble. But really, as things are, I have absolutely no complaints, and I'm just grateful that the internet gives me more time and more opportunity
It
to
does.
connect with all of the communities that I do manage to
Oh yeah.
find love from and give love back to.
Oh yeah. And everything interconnects. I mean, that's one thing that, people talk about, this, that's plagiarism. That's, well, no, everything interconnects. I mean, everything is inspired a little bit by something else, and it's very cyclical and it's very, web-like. Everything works together with that.
Yes.
You can't really do, they say you can't do anything original now, and I don't agree with that, but I think it's not a bad thing if what you make does reference and allude to and come from other sources. That's how people work. That is
Yes.
human nature to intermingle. So I think that's a wonderful thing that you work with all that and you learn from it and take that into what you do.
Thank you. And you're 200% right. That is exactly how we work. And if it were not how we work, then none of our stories would survive.
No,
And
they wouldn't.
if none of our stories survive, crazy kids like me wouldn't have a job.
Oh yeah. Well, Shakespeare himself was just retelling other stories much at a time.
Yeah.
You know, so your first band was Skinny White Chicken. The other day, I was playing your Salad of Doom, and a DJ came in, a former DJ at the station came in. He's the guy I started listening to first, and he came in and he was like immediately, S.J. Chucker said, "Hey, that's Skinny White Chick. I love that."
Aw,
He knew you.
that's amazing.
He knew you immediately. Yeah. I
That makes 17-year-old me very happy.
so talk a little bit about your first band.
Okay. Well, I will go ahead and explain the band name first, because it's a really fun story, and it's an
Okay.
empowering one. It's an empowering one for me, and I've been I've been telling this one in interviews since at least 10 years back of Radio KoL. So
Oh,
this is vintage lore at this point.
nice.
I was 19 years old
Uh-huh.
when the band that I had formed, which was a three-piece that I had with two friends of mine, my first bass player and my first drummer, respectively, a wonderful, wonderful, amazing guys who I knew from a neighboring college campus where I was studying. We had our first concert. It was in Hot Springs, Arkansas, in in the middle of June,
Oh,
which
wow.
can be quite humid and
Hot springs.
oppressive for those of you who don't know. It can be quite sticky on
I've
any
been in the South
given,
in summer. I know. I
yeah,
know.
any given toasty Saturday can be kind of rough, but we were young and we were tough. It was an outdoor gig. At least there was shade. We were good to go. So this was a little mini day festival hosted by a guitar store that's unfortunately no longer around, that was called Banjo Dan's. This place was
Uh,
famous and well known in the area, and all of the guys that were on staff there were fantastic, at least to me. It may have been because I was 19 and adorable. I don't know. Not going to go there. Anyhow, so there we are. They very sweetly gave us a stage slot. I think I walked in at just the right time, and they had one more little slot to fill with an act. And I said, "Well, why don't you let us do it? I'll call the guys and have them drive in." And
okay.
I had given them our band name to put on the show poster, which at the time the band that was Headcase. That was the band name at the time.
Oh.
And it was a reference to something that my boyfriend had said to me, which was kind of a barbed compliment.
Hmm.
And I thought, well, that's a good band name. We'll go with that. And that same week, I had been across the street and down a couple of blocks at a place that's also just recently gone the way of the dodo. That was where I had my very first concert. Was called the Poets Loft.
Oh,
and it was at 514B Central Avenue in Hot Springs, Arkansas. And I will never forget that. It was above an antique store, and it was where
oh,
several
neat.
nights a week there were open mics. There was open mic poetry. There was featured poetry. There were poetry slams. There was open mic night for music
I've done
and
those.
songwriters. And just it was my cultural lifeline during the summer when I was running around Arkansas and exploring and connecting with people that I didn't have time to connect with when class was in session.
Yeah, that sounds like my college experience too, pretty much. Exploring all of that. I know exactly how you feel.
Yeah, that's you got to work with what you got.
Oh yeah.
And during one particular poetry night, my friend Gina Wallace, who is an incredible poet, and
Uh-huh.
she's working abroad right now, gave me the gift of a sticker that was a home printed sticker. This was back in the day when you wanted to do self promo, you had to basically print the stickers yourself if you had a really slick printer. So it was just a black and white, not an all weather, not a slick bumper sticker kind of thing. But she let me choose between two stickers, and this was advertising for another slam poet entirely. And
Uh-huh.
if I could find the sticker, I will email you and tell you what his name was because I I have to find I saved it. It's somewhere.
Okay.
But she let me choose between two stickers and they all had a different slogan. And the first one was God is a rock star. The second one was if you are not a skinny white girl, you are nothing. Which, as far as I could tell at the time, was a little bit of snarky social commentary on the fashion industry and
Yeah,
etc.,
sounds like it.
which unfortunately is still pretty valid. Now,
Yeah.
for me, that statement was an act of empowerment because I was a skinny white girl who was walking around Hot Springs, Arkansas with a guitar case that was bigger than I was. And I got laughed at a lot by catcallers and guys on the street.
Oh, yeah. I got.
So
Yeah.
I put that sticker right onto my guitar case so that the next time that happened to me while I was walking down the sidewalk, I could look at that and think to myself, well, you know what? If this were Desperado and I opened this guitar case right now, you wouldn't be saying that, would you? So there it went. And long story short, very, very long story short, the
Uh-huh.
guys at Banjo Dan's saw that sticker on my case and assumed that our band name was not what I had told them. In
Oh.
fact, no, not at all. But that our band name was Skinny White Chick. It was an immediate band name overhaul because I looked at the guys and they were like, "That's an upgrade, dude." And I said, "Yeah, and it's truth in advertising too. Let's use that. Let's roll with it." So we did, and we kept it for several years until the band parted ways. And by then it was my brand, it was my website. I had auditioned for another band when I was living in Memphis, Tennessee in the early 2000s who had begged me and sat me down in front of a computer and said, if you haven't registered that web domain, you need to do that right now. Here, use my machine. Let me pull up the registration site for you. So that's how that came about.
Nice. That's well. It's funny how that happens. Like you just you don't know where something like that's going to come from, and it's just
Nope.
it's serendipitous. It appears out of nowhere. It seems too often.
And songwriting is very much like that for
Oh
me
yeah.
as well. I'm participating in a song a week challenge this year for the first
Oh
time,
really? I've seen
and
those. Yeah.
we're on week 9 right now, and there are 20 odd members in the songwriting group,
Hmm.
and some of them are people I know, some of them are people I've never met, but we all accept the challenge to write a brand new song from a
Brand new.
prompt, which we receive in our email every Monday,
Oh.
and we have to turn in an MP3 of the song, at least 2 minutes long. It doesn't have to be any longer than that, by midnight the following Sunday.
Uh-huh.
And we're on week 9 at this point, and none of the things that I have written thus far have been things that I would have written otherwise.
Yeah.
This is just all out of the blue, and I'm so excited and stoked and grateful for the chance to do this, and I love how it's working out.
It
And I
sounds very
encourage I encourage everybody to try something like that at some point, because I was scared to death when the opportunity came. I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to pull this off. And so far, steady, every single week I have a new song. I have 9 new songs at this point.
I
It's
I
crazy.
used to do poetry in college, and I do that. People would say, pick something out, and I'd have to, write something about it. And I remember that it worked the same way. You have to, work on the fly. One of the things I love to do as a DJ sometimes is one of the things I'm known for is I have one of the most eclectic collections just about anything you can come up with, I can find a song to go to it, and I'm very proud of that. That's my thing for that now.
Mad skills.
It's very it's rewarding to
Mhm.
be able to just sometimes just work on the fly and see and by the seat of your pants and not really be entirely comfortable with it.
Yes. Oh man. Then quite a bit of this has been outside of my comfort zone as well. And
Exactly.
it's about 50-50 really. Half of it is stuff that I could have written anytime, and the other half is stuff that I really kind of tried to go out there in order to get what I was after for the sound of it. And it's just super, super great. I feel pretty well galvanized and almost like I could write a song about anything, but please don't put something like banorexia in a song prompt, or basorexia in a song prompt, and expect me to
What is
not have to
that?
do a little research. That I don't know yet, which is why I'm glad it hasn't come up in a song
Oh,
prompt.
well, hell, that.
But our fearless leader has threatened us with extra challenges that include a crazy word like that or something if we don't meet the deadline. If
Ah.
we turn our song in, but we're just a few minutes late, she's gonna make those of us that were late, those of us that were tardy, use a random word of her choosing in the next week's song,
Oh my.
and that puts the fear in me. I'm not gonna lie.
That sounds like it could get interesting. That I would almost be tempted to purposely do that just for the challenge,
Yeah.
just to see what they tossed at me.
Well, it's somebody, and this group is no slouch, and that's one of the reasons that I'm loving it. There's nobody who shirks on any of this, and someone actually used panacea successfully in a song,
Ooh,
and it had nothing
I
that
can
use
see
of
it.
that word had
I can.
nothing to do with the prompt, and I just had to write her and call her out and say that was amazing, by the way.
I can see it. Panacea is. It's not that odd a word actually. It just sounds odd. But I mean,
But it was great. It was even in the
yeah.
rhyme scheme. I was
Oh
like,
wow,
you are incredible.
nice. That is good. Well done, actually. Yeah. So when did Skinny White Chick actually break up, or it has it? I can't actually find that. I mean, how?
Well, it evolved actually.
Okay.
Skinny White Chick for a long time I used as just a catch-all for myself and whoever else was able to join me on stage at the time. And the vast majority of people were also skinny and white and chicks, which
Ah.
made it more silly and just an extra giggle for us. But that's not to say that there have not been some brave men and some people of color on stage with me before plenty of times, and that I do not value all that they contribute. There's a gentleman who at one time worked with Rusted Root, who was on stage with us for one night. I was like, never let it be said that he was not man enough to be in a band called Skinny White Chick,
Hmm.
because there's video evidence. But yeah, for a long time it was I had an objection to just calling myself SJ Tucker or the SJ Tucker Band or anything like that, because I
I
feel
can see that.
I had well, you notice the folks that are major players who have the label backing and the roadies and the entire crew and the union workers and everything who do the giant stadium tours. They have about 15 people in their backing band in some
Yeah.
cases.
Oh yeah.
And yet it's still so and so Jones.
Yeah.
And that bothered me. So and not that I'm criticizing anyone, but I didn't want to play it like that. If I were going to do shows with other people, I wanted them to be recognized as part of a thing.
Well,
So Skinny White Chick became the thing that we could all be recognized for.
that's neat. Well, is there's a lot of bands actually started out as backing bands. Like the Eagles were a backing band for Linda Ronstadt originally.
Yeah.
And a lot of like singing groups, and they started out as like backup singers or backup bands. A lot of good stuff's come that way. So you
Oh,
you
no
you,
kidding.
you just cannot forget the backup bands. And these days you can't tell based on a name if something's a whole band or one person. Like Nine Inch Nails,
Yeah.
one guy. Owl City is one
Surprise.
guy. Yeah, yeah. But
Hootie and the Blowfish. No one in the band is actually named Hootie.
yeah,
What?
well, well, that's pretty common actually. Where a lot,
Yeah.
with a lot of stuff like that. Yeah,
It's
but it's
a
just
there's a trickster energy to it, which I like.
there
It's
is.
very,
I love
very,
tricksters, so that's great.
very appropriate for April Fool's Day.
Oh yeah, this is one of my favorite holidays. Every year I've usually hit the radio station with some sort of prank or other. So
Oh
Uh,
boy.
I have a blast. A couple years ago, I actually my big prank was that I hit them with a surprise interview with They Might Be Giants. I had managed to. Yeah,
Wow.
I was shocked. I was like, on a whim, I had sent them a thing asking for an interview, and they actually get granted to me. So I recorded it and played it out of the blue with no warning on April 1st.
That's the best.
Other things we've done in the past. We had a zombie apocalypse on the station, and we had DJs dying, quote unquote, and
Oh no.
shows getting taken over and cut off, and
Okay, Orson Welles, you got to watch that.
oh yeah, oh that's actually one of my favorite. Also, every Halloween, 5 years running now, the entire month of October, I do a Revenge of the Radio where I do all old radio serials and stuff, and I culminate with as close to Halloween as I can. I do the original War of the Worlds broadcast.
Oh, I love it.
Because it's awesome.
I love it. It is awesome. It changed history.
Oh
It
yeah.
really, really.
The other neat thing I like to play is 2 years later. Well, apparently, an enterprising interviewer in San Antonio, it was able to get H.G. Wells and Orson Welles into the same room. They were there for completely different things, and sat them down. This is 1941 or 40. I forget which it is right now. 40.
Oh, wow.
England's at war. America isn't, and they're talking about things like Orson Welles' new film that's coming out, Citizen Kane, and
Yeah.
how and how Russia's not that bad because compared to Germany, and and all these things that they're
Ooh.
talking about, and H.G. Wells was on his way out. He did not live long after World War II ended,
Yeah.
and
Awesome.
Orson Welles was just on his way up. So to hear these two great figures talking together, and the interviewer very wisely didn't say much throughout it. He just let them go and asked a few questions. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I probably would have done the same. I would have just.
Oh yeah.
Just gently set the microphone down and held space, probably.
Yeah. So, what's your favorite band you've worked with?
Wow. Well, currently, and I'm happy to crow about this. I am looking at getting to share a festival stage again with some of my heart sisters in this world.
Oh.
And a band called Big Bad Gina, who are based in Northwest Arkansas. They are really, really big in the women's music community right now. They've opened for the Indigo Girls. My girls have been on a billboard. It's incredible.
Have to check them out.
I love them so much, but they're brilliant and sweet and jazzy and talented, and they've got that kind of band dynamic where they can all three switch instruments after every song for the entire show if they want to. It's that level of chops.
There's a band like that I'm getting into right now called Shell. It's out of Colorado. SHEL, all capital. The four letters stand for it's four sisters, and the four letters are the first capital of each of their names, and they're really good. I saw them live here the first time. They were stopping here, and I got their CD, and I've been following them, and they use some beautiful, beautiful music. It actually reminds me a lot of your work, and actually I've sometimes played your stuff and theirs back to back.
Wow. Okay, I got to look them up. If that's a really big endorsement from you, so that's enough. That's more than enough for me.
They're they remind me a lot of it. It's just beautiful music, and it was really fun. They had a wonderful dynamic. By the way, they do some of the steampunk stuff with the way they dress up, and one of the sisters apparently is experimenting with beatbox, and she did some for us, and it was just a lot of fun. Seeing them, so I think you'd like them a lot.
That's grand. Well, thank you. I will crow a little bit also about a band that I haven't gotten to see in a year, but who's always been dear to me, and that's Frenchie and the Punk. And I know in the steampunk world, the Frenchie and the Punk, they are much beloved in the steampunk side of things. They are it's a duo, and their names are Scott and Sam.
Okay.
And I met them ages ago, and we kind of looked at each other a couple of years back when we were sharing a convention in Ohio, and Scott and I just had that moment where we looked each other in the eyes and grinned and said, "We're still doing this. We're still doing this. That's so cool." And they are amazing on stage, and it's primarily guitar and big drums. So Scott puts his guitar through a looper. Nice. Sam does crazy percussion all over the place, and she's She's Franco-American, so she's got a lot of French heritage,
Oh, okay.
and she brings you can hear that come out in her voice, and she's got this deep jazzy alto that's just gorgeous. But they do songs about circus and dolls coming to life and
Woohoo!
steampunk and mystery, and just the two of
Oh, I
them
like that.
can take over any stage and fill it up.
See, now I have two more
And
bands. This is one of the things I love about doing this. I have over 30,000 tracks on my computer, and I have everything from I have Italian yodeling hip hop. I have whole lot of bagpipe rock and folk rock and rock from Japan and Tunisia and everywhere imaginable, just sounds you never thought existed
uh-huh.
that I've learned about doing this. And you find out about new bands, and I'm like, oh, I need to share this with people, and they share stuff with me, and that's why I love doing this. Now I have more bands to look up and get to know.
Those of us who geek out about music have very rich lives,
Oh yeah.
because when we find another music geek, then we can spend hours looking at each other and go, "Oh, you've got to check this out." And
Yeah,
just
yeah.
trading that back and forth, and no one gets tired of it.
Oh yeah.
It's
And it's
incredible.
just you share, and it's like
Yeah.
and it's equally beautiful the things you find that you both know, and the things you
Mm.
find that neither that only one of you knows, and that you get to share with the other one now.
Yeah. This is one of the reasons that I advocate for performers who are on my level, which is not the highest level by any means, but it is a good, strong, comfortable, grassroots, community supported level that I love to be on. To have all of your tracks available to embed,
Uh-huh.
and name your own price if you can afford it, for folks that are going to
Mhm.
download it on the
Yeah.
streaming services like Bandcamp, which make it super, super easy. I can go in there and change everything around and
Oh, I
create a
I love
sale
Bandcamp.
anytime I feel like it.
I love
And
Bandcamp.
I've just recently started to be a little bit more aggressive with myself about putting stuff out there on YouTube, because
Oh,
so many
good.
people just live on YouTube,
Oh, they
and I'm
do.
I'm still I'm still catching up. I am a couple of years behind in that, but
I've mostly
I'm
put
certainly working on it, with especially with the new CD that just came out.
I've mostly put up videos of like I've been volunteering the last couple of summers at the wildlife rescue place, so mostly I've been putting up videos from that of late.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Oh, it's wonderful. I get to work with baby raccoons and this
Oh.
turkey vulture named Vinny and all these wonderful, amazing animals and it's a messy job and I get tired, but I love it. I've done it 2 summers now. I'm hoping to do it again this summer, and it's just amazing. But YouTube, can do so much with it, and it's amazing what just the communities that you can do. And one of the things I like about DJing again is I get so many times people have said I looked this up because you played it. I actually had one guy in Canada.
This
Uh,
is why we love you.
I had one guy in Canada who actually took several of my suggestions and worked them into his wedding ceremony. That was just amazing.
Wow, that's high praise right there.
It was like
Yeah,
I
you really did it right.
oh yeah, it was a wonderful thing. He took a version of there's a band out of Boston called Raw because
Yes,
it's
I love
oh,
Raw.
you know Raw. Oh,
I know
well,
Raw.
he used their rendition of Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic.
That is my favorite cover of that song
It is
ever.
great, isn't it? And
Oh,
he used it
yes.
in the ceremony because I suggested it.
I love that version.
It's a great version. It really
That's
is.
on permanent playlist in my car.
Oh yeah, it's my favorite version of that song, and I love to do covers. I get weird covers, and you would just I have a Ukrainian polka version of Highway to Hell, so that tells you something.
Wow. It was Angus's birthday a couple of days
Oh,
ago. I think Angus from AC/DC.
oh, it was, huh?
Yeah.
Cool. I did not know that actually. Hmm.
Celebrate those gents who have been about to rock before and
Yeah.
who still are.
And AC/DC is rather unique because I don't know if you know this, but they had their biggest hit right after their biggest fall, which is what their lead singer died.
Oh gosh.
Oh yeah, he died. Their lead singer died.
Yeah.
He'd been out partying and he died of asphyxiation. Unfortunately, a lot of artists go that way.
A lot
And
of people go there.
at
That
first
sucks.
they were not sure they were going to go on, but then they
Oh.
they went and they tried out several people and they went and they got this one guy who had been who their lead singer had said he loved him. Bon Scott said he loved this guy, and that he'd seen him once playing, and he'd seen him lay down and writhe around. It turns out that the performance he saw him do this at, the guy actually had appendicitis and was in real pain, but went on with the show, and they had to wheel him out.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, but so they got this guy, and they brought him in, and they're waiting for him to audition. They're like, "Where is he?" "Oh, he's downstairs playing pool at the roadies." "Oh, well, at least he plays pool." And they bring him upstairs, and they try him, and so they liked him so much, and right after that, that's when they did Back in Black, which is the second best-selling album of all time.
Yeah. Wow.
And that's a major comeback, and that no one expected that. I mean, this guy was having to step in for a beloved singer who they'd had for many years.
Yeah, no kidding.
So you just don't know what's going to happen.
You don't know what's going to happen, and then Angus walks in.
Yeah.
And suddenly everything is fine.
Yeah. So I was going to talk, you mentioned a little bit before about your book CD collaborations, because I find that to be really, really neat. I love, one of the things I do when I play music, I tend to use the genre tag to put like little notes and things like literary. So I can type in literary, and I have all these songs that are about, that have literary connections. And I love how many songs do spring from books, but it makes sense because a lot of movies spring from books too. So why not our music, right?
Yes.
So so tell me more about that, because you talked a little bit about it before, and I know that you did some other ones. It says here that you actually did a Peter Pan thing, which I gotta look that up now, because I love that. That looks amazing and awesome.
Oh, thank you. Well, the Peter Pan thing sort of landed on my head unexpectedly. It was one of those lightning bolts, and I give Oakland singer-songwriter Sharon Knight some of the blame for that, because I wrote my songs about Wendy and Peter Pan shortly after meeting her, and binge listening to one of her CDs after we parted ways. And that was one of the years that I had just started performing at the Fairy Worlds Festival out in Oregon. Got to meet Sharon. She and I exchanged CDs. It was literally almost ships in the night. We had to do it really fast because she had to go somewhere and I had to go somewhere, but it worked out perfectly. And then I'm stuck for hours with my notebook writing this freaking World and War and Peace epic about what might happen if Wendy decided not to go home and ended up becoming a pirate and taking over the ship and kicking Captain Hook over the side, and just all the girl power that you can possibly stuff into a story about a boy who never grows up and who really doesn't understand girls.
And I have a daughter, so I love that message. My wife's mother is the head of the YWCA. My wife's very well versed in feminist theory and a lot of writers, and so am I because of that. And I have a daughter, and I want to I wanted to grow up in a world where it's okay for the girls to stand right alongside the boys and even take the lead and just do everything. That complete equality, and it's good to see that, because a lot of the old stories you don't get that.
Exactly. And we can come up with better stories now.
Yes, we can.
Because there are enough of us that are willing to stand side by side. And I've got a song in the works that's about that too.
Oh.
I'm gonna try to not make it too pedantic and ooey gooey fluffy duffy, but there are gonna be some pirates in it, so it's gonna be fine.
Nice.
But yeah, it's good to know at the point where I'm standing here in the first world that there
here at
for
least, yeah.
I think it's balancing out. I think for every man and every woman and everyone in between who really doesn't get it, there is someone else who understands.
I think so. It's definitely changing.
If we can all appreciate each other, and or at least find one little thing to appreciate about each other, that's where world peace is going to come from.
Oh, yeah.
If we ever get there.
I think we will.
It's as individual people we can respect each other and show compassion and choose love over fear.
I think we will. And we've had setbacks, and we still move forward. Like apparently, I don't know if you know this, but like in the 40s and 30s, in the early days of comic books, there used to be just as many female readers as male. Matter of fact, but pretty much all kids read comic books, and there were a lot of female heroes actually that were so popular that they took over books from their male counterparts.
Yeah, that's coming back. I love that.
And then in the 50s, unfortunately, the comic book code nearly killed them. And when they were reborn, you wound up with these, superhero teams where there was one token female, and unfortunately that ruined things for a long time. And that's starting to change, thankfully. With a lot of wonderful female artists and authors. There's still some problems, like DC still doing some dumb stuff, unfortunately, and they are. It's like they killed a cartoon, Young Justice, and this is almost a quote, because there were too many female fans and quote unquote girls don't buy toys.
Bless your heart.
And I'm like, really, really?
Wow. If girls don't buy toys, explain Monster High. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Explain Monster High.
My
daughter
loves that.
So do I.
And it's just I'm just so livid that they would, A, that they would say girls don't buy toys, and B, that they would use that as such a lame excuse to kill something.
These are people who have never had a young female person in their lives at Christmas time.
I think so.
Girls don't buy toys.
I just can't imagine that.
Well, I'm sure that there are other franchises that are just tickled to death by that, because that means that there will be less competition from that direction.
That is
for
true.
them.
That is true.
Unfortunately, when it's all about the cheese, that's what they're thinking of.
So,
well, we really went wide there. I wanted to say about the Wendy songs that I have come up with, that it's coming all the way back around to the beginning there, because there's a children's book in the works now that's based on the songs of mine that are in turn based on Peter Pan and the songs that I wrote. So there's a children's book in the works. My artist is Matt Hawk, who's living in Eugene, Oregon, and is such a lost boy himself.
I want to know when that book comes out. Please,
dude,
let me know.
I'm gonna be making some noise. We're gonna do a crowdfunder for the print run. And at this point, I have a vague number of what that's going to take, but we're going to make sure that all the art and the layout is done first, because I think that's the ethical way to do it. If you're gonna put a project together with Kickstarter or GoFundMe or Indiegogo or Rocket or any of the other services that are out there, have as much of the work that you can afford to do as possible done before you show people what it's about. So that's where we're at now. And it's taking a while, but it's taking a while because we're working to get it right.
Well, that comes back to what we talked about earlier, where everything connects, and, things do like that. One feeds into another, a story inspired, a book. And I mean, like Peter Pan itself, it was inspired by J.M. Barrie's relationship with, this widow and her kids who he was looking after. And, everything interconnects. So, it inspired this music, which inspired a book. And stuff works like that, and I love that. I mean, that's a perfect example of how one piece of artwork inspires another.
Yes,
right there.
And any celebration of what inspires us, I think, should in turn be celebrated. Which is why I've been on a little mini crusade this year to remind people who are con goers that the filk groups and filkers and the people who enjoy filk and play filk are not actually the bottom of the barrel and the outcasts and the uncool kids. There are a lot of amazingly cool people doing filk, and even if there weren't, it doesn't matter, because all that filk is about is celebrating what inspires you, and that's the best that any of us can do.
I've actually had Tom Smith, a really well-known filk artist, on my show.
Tom is one of my favorites.
Oh, he's great. He is wonderful. I love him. And yeah, I mean, filk is just, celebrating, and to be honest, there's not much of a fine line between filk and things like I mentioned earlier. Blue Oyster Cult did Black Blade and a bunch of other, there's a lot of fantasy and sci-fi in hard rock, in heavy metal, all over the place.
Led Zeppelin are such Tolkien nerds.
Oh, they are. They are.
Seriously. Do not tell me that the filkers are not cool.
Oh, hell yeah.
That is my argument.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's just that, some people, they get into this mindset of it can't be cool. It can't be cool. But if they open themselves up, they start to realize, oh, I actually like this. The key is to open them up to it.
Mm-hmm.
I think
that happened to John Ringo a couple of years ago.
Oh,
Yes, I was there uh, at FenCon in Dallas. Heather Dale, who's another one of my dear friends and fellow songwriters, and if you don't know her work, you should absolutely dive
Hmm.
in. Heatherdale.com. She's working on a
Other
musical, a
tale.
stage musical
Oh,
about Arthurian legend right now, and
oh,
it's quite good.
really? Oh,
Yes,
that I must see.
yeah, she's a freaking scholar in that capacity, so I encourage it. But she made a really, really elegant speech about how filk is just the music of us.
It is.
And she's absolutely right. It's music by and for people who are not afraid to run away with and make their own art out
Oh,
of
yeah.
something that inspires them. It's just like fan fiction, and there's so much
Yes.
fan fiction that's getting literary cred now. I'm glad that
Some
that
better than
attitude of
others.
stuff. I'm glad that's true. That's very, very true. Thank you for saying that. But I'm glad I like that trend,
It
and
is a
I
good
like that
trend.
we're evolving in that
Well,
direction because
superheroes
it's
and comic books and fantasy and sci-fi, there are new legends. And
yes,
it
thank
makes
you.
sense that we will sing about them.
Uh-huh. I got no problem doing it. I got nothing to hide. I'm job proof at this point. I'm going to sing about whatever I want.
Well, that actually brings up my next big question. What do you consider to be your influences? That's all. Everybody has to ask that. What are your
Yes.
influences?
Well, as far as music is concerned, and this is a lifetime thing. The Beatles were sort of the beginning of my
Ah.
awakening, and that's true for a lot of
It's
people.
it's funny because you mentioned drumming earlier, and Ringo is considered to be the guy who basically changed the way people see drumming because before that it was all about drum solos, but when he came in, they talk about how you can recognize a Ringo drum part, a song just by the Ringo drum part, and how he became a member of the band in full.
Yeah,
So
and that's
yeah.
true, and I think it applies to if we're gonna get into the nuts and bolts of this, which I will do. Do not give me an excuse to geek out about the Beatles because I will do it.
Oh
I've
dear.
I've been a little walking Beatles encyclopedia since I was about 13, but I think that can apply to other aspects of the songs as well. Because
Oh
just sitting
yeah.
here thinking about it, there's there's always one little thing about a Beatles song that will help you remember which one it is, at least for me. And sometimes it's the drums, sometimes it's a guitar lick,
Mhm.
sometimes it's the way that a vocal came out.
Oh
It's
yeah.
just all sorts of stuff. And that's one thing that I admire about them, but it may be a blood connection. I'm pretty sure that I got it from my mom, but my grandfather was responsible for me owning my first Beatles LP.
Ah.
I had one of those little stand-up Fisher Price jukebox
I had one of
record
those.
players
I had one
back
of
in the
those.
80s. Was it red? I had a red one.
I don't remember what color it was, but I had like
Okay.
old Batman ready. Anyway, go
It
ahead. Go ahead.
it looked like a little jukebox for someone who's not more than 4 feet tall, which I was not at the time, and actually took quite a while to get more than 4 feet tall, but I'm doing fine now. I'm still vertically challenged, but it's all good because some of us get away with a lot more being down here. Uh,
Hey, hey, I trust me. Being tall isn't all it's cracked up to be. I'm 6'4" and I don't fit into anything.
Bless. But I bet you look fantastic in your steampunk gear.
I do, yes. So
There you go. Own it, brother. So here I am. Picture this. 3 years old, 3-year-old Sooj in my little pigtails and my overalls,
oh,
and I'm choosing a record to very carefully place onto my Fisher Price record player
uh-huh.
because the grown-up record player in the house was very sensitive, so I couldn't dance in the living room unless I was very careful. Otherwise, it would skip for days.
Wow,
So I had learned at the age of 3 how to be careful with an LP. So
nice.
here I am choosing an LP from my little collection to put onto my Fisher Price record player. And I choose the one that my grandfather has brought me from the Saturday auction that he goes to just about
Uh-huh.
every weekend. And it is the US LP release of Magical Mystery Tour
Oh,
by the Beatles.
nice.
So just imagine little 3-year-old me sitting on my bed listening to Blue Jay Way, which is a weird song, and listening to I Am the Walrus, which is an even
Mm,
weirder
yes,
song,
it is.
and going, wow, this is cool.
It is. It is.
Well, I blame the Beatles for a lot of the way that my musical brain works, and a lot of the way that I'm predisposed to like kind of wacky things
I
because I
I
think I
can
had that
understand
from
that.
them
Yeah.
very, very early on.
I listened to a lot of my parents' record collection, which I'm kind of sad that it's gone now. They passed away recently, and it was all sold off. I wasn't able to get any of it to pay for their debts,
Sorry.
and I think it's a shame. because they had a wonderful record collection. But it's just,
And it's a shame.
it's a window into the past.
Absolutely.
You know.
And I'm fascinated with analog gear as
Oh
well.
yeah,
Don't I'm not a collector there because I would need another house. But
we have a few.
I come from a long line of collectors and pack rats, so it could happen any
So
day now.
yeah, so we have a few DJs who've actually, like DJ had this whole big rig where he would play old records. He goes out and he finds records to play that, and he's managed to find a way to like hook it up into the computer to play over the air. And I love
Yes.
that. And yeah, it's fun. I mean, you people forget that there's so much out there that isn't digital still now, and
Yeah.
I think that we need to preserve that, and we should probably make it digital because it's going to last longer then, and
Yeah.
you can spread it.
Well,
But there's a lot out there that isn't digital, and
and it really depends on how the world goes as to whether
yeah,
digital lasts long. But I am
true.
part of me is ready for all of my music sales from here on out to be fully digital. And part of me at the same time really wants a chance to get a vinyl pressing of at least my most recent album, which is only a week and a half old, because I just found out that my favorite company for CD replication
Oh,
has just gotten their vinyl equipment set up. So they have
really?
vinyl replication capability
Oh,
now.
that'd
It's
be so neat.
Audiographic Masterworks in Memphis, Tennessee. That's where all of my CDs have been pressed up to this point, and they're fantastic people. They're really great to work with. They're decently fast, have a good turnaround time. But I have to wait my turn because when everyone else found out that they were
Everybody
doing
else
vinyl,
wants it.
all of my other colleagues in Memphis were like, "Hey, wait a minute!" And far afield as well. They have clients all over the place. It's a little bit intimidating their client
Now,
base, and I won't name names, but there's some there are some heavies that I'm having to wait my turn before I ask for vinyl pressing from these guys.
Now, how has Memphis influenced you? Because I'm betting it has. You can't be somewhere and not have some influence from that place.
Oh golly. Well, I grew up in the Mississippi Delta area of the country. I grew up in
Uh-huh.
Southeast Arkansas. Memphis is the biggest town to go to as a creative jumping off place from where I
Oh
grew
yeah.
up. And we have still every October we have the King Biscuit Blues Festival,
Oh
which is
yeah.
world famous
I'm aware of the whole
down in
blues
Helena.
country thing that's come through there. So yeah.
Yeah, man. And I had to seek most of that out for myself. But
Oh.
as far as this new record is concerned, I really finally got to bust out
Yes.
the few jazz and blues chops that I do have.
Oh, you have
And
them.
it was such a thank you. It was
The first thing
such a
I thought
pleasure.
when I heard it was this is bluesy. This is very bluesy. I loved it.
Thank you. I've been wanting to do uh, something with that particular part of my voice and that part of my brain and that source of influence for a very long time.
So apparently I picked the right topic there with Memphis because yeah.
Yeah, you did. I only lived in Memphis for 4 years. It was just immediately after I graduated
But
from college. I
some
moved
places
there.
stay with you.
Oh yeah, and Memphis is one of those. It's I think I think if I had moved to New Orleans instead, it would have been even more impactful. And I think I might still be there if I had moved down to New Orleans. But as it is, I'm living in a really beautiful part of Arkansas these days,
Oh.
way out in the country on a gravel road, off a gravel road, where a summer camp used to be, and I'm only 4 miles away from the oldest state park in the state. So it's a peaceful place to work now and to sort of dig through all of the songwriting ideas and stuff that I have, which include some of the things that came from living in Memphis and doing shows on Beale Street every once in a
I can
while and
I can tell.
getting to rub elbows with some people who really have the blues inside of them.
I can tell where you live too, because like some of the songs I look at here, like from Tricky Pixie with like Tough Titty Cupcakes. I had to share that with my fellow workers at the wildlife center because like
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
feeding 50 baby raccoons a day,
Oh,
and it's just that's exactly it. It's
perfect. Perfect.
so when I first heard that, I was like, that I gotta share that with them.
You guys feel free to have that for your theme song because I imagine Jessica Rabbit as a furry for that song.
Yeah, I can
That's
see
what I
that in
see.
my head. I can
That's what I
absolutely
see
see
with
that.
the spangly dress, and I have done that cosplay once.
Oh,
Unfortunately, it was an outdoor show, and it didn't last very long because it was hot.
oh yeah, that thing's
That's
clingy. That
all
would
right.
not work well. Not-
Well, and it worked out. It worked out okay, but having that big of a tail to drag around in the grass was a problem. So
uh,
we're gonna have to rethink Miss Cupcakes. But I will tell you that the hat that I found for that ensemble is fabulous.
oh, okay.
And I will not be upgrading the hat because the rest of the outfit needs to step up in order to match that hat.
I'm a hat aficionado. I have over 80 of them, and
Wow.
a large number of them I have made hat bands for, and the hat bands often are things I can like interchange and such, and I often wear my goggles on them and so on. So I'm a big hat person, so I understand.
Me too. The trouble is when you get to the point where you cannot find a hat that looks bad on you, and they all want to come home.
Yeah, that's a problem. I don't have room for. There's like two big hat racks, three big hat racks on the wall, and there's a bunch of them in two closets, and a bunch of them piled up over there, and since so many of mine I mean, I have a lot of berets and fedoras and things, but I also have like top hats and cowboy hats and Aussie hats, and just oh dear.
No two are the same. It's
Oh
very
no, no,
difficult.
they're no two are the same.
You can't wear just one.
No. I know exactly what you mean there. So I brought it up already. Your current band that you're in is Tricky Pixie,
Yes.
and for those of you who don't know, and I'll have to put that up on YouTube actually, the interview I have with them. I got to interview two members of Tricky Pixie a while back. How long was that ago? I have no sense of time now.
That was Baycon a year and a half ago, I
Was it a
believe.
year and a half ago?
Yes.
Wow, that seems like so long. Yeah, 'cause, since then, both of my parents, my father passed away last year. No, sorry, 2013, and my mother in 2012. So
Uh-huh.
you know, so
Bless.
so time for me has been kind of weird the last couple of years, and I was never very good with time to begin with.
No kidding. You have every right to be a little wonky in
Yeah,
your timey-wimey
and
arrangement.
especially my father, it came out. My mother was mouth cancer, and it built, and it just kind of it was a terrible thing at the end. And my father, though,
So
nobody saw
sad.
it coming. It was just out of the blue, and it took us all by shock. So yeah.
There's no good way to lose someone. There's no good way.
No, there isn't, and that was my first real. I'd had grandparents die before, but it'd always been when I was young and they were distant,
Yeah, exactly. Me too.
and that was my first time actually really losing somebody that hit close to home, that close
Yikes.
to home, and it was just a big thing, and it changes the way you see a lot of things. Let me tell you,
Yeah. You have to take time.
you
Well,
do.
I have a little, not to be ghoulish, but I have a little corollary YouTube recommendation, and
Oh,
that's the Ask a Mortician web series on
huh?
YouTube.
I will look that up.
Caitlin Doty is a mortician based in Los Angeles. She's just released a memoir called "Smoke Gets in Your Eyes" and Other Lessons from the Crematory, and I am a huge fan of all that she does. She is an advocate for making sure that people have the knowledge and the rights, and the knowledge that they have the rights to do whatever it is they
Oh,
need to do right by their loved ones when their loved ones have passed away.
oh yeah.
And she has founded a group called the Order of the Good Death, and she just really,
Oh, that's.
and she's a geek like us. She's a death geek, and she's other flavors of geek as well, and she brings her personality greatly into her videos, and I've learned a lot from her in the last little while.
That's nice. That is nice. I will have to look at that. And you say not to be morbid, but I don't mind because I mean you'll notice that humor and death often go hand in hand, humor and tragedy, because I think we need to be able to laugh a little bit to handle that
Yeah,
sometimes.
just ask anyone who works dispatch.
Oh
Ask
yeah.
anyone who works police dispatch, and they'll tell you that's true.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I
So,
I I
but
I,
get
I send good thoughts to my friends who work police dispatch
but
and
getting back on
radio.
track, I
Sure.
I, I want to hear more about Tricky Pixie because this
Okay.
this is your current
Yes.
band, and I know, and you guys need to put out another album.
Yes, you're absolutely right. We do. This 2015 is going to be a big Tricky Pixie year, actually.
Oh.
We have more concerts scheduled this year than we have in a very long time. And part of the reason that we had backed off a bit is because Alec has been moving to the Midwest,
Uh-huh.
and it took him some time to get settled in, and we wanted to give him whatever space that he needed. But it's every time we see each other, every time we talk on the phone, we literally pick up right where we left off. And so please nobody think that there's anything wrong. It's
Oh, no.
just time and distance and grown up things that we have to make
And I
time
know you
for.
guys all have your own careers too, as well as doing this, as I understand
Oh
it.
my God.
Yeah.
We all released a solo album last year. Everyone had a new CD. Betsy released her very first, which is called Release the Cello,
Oh,
and it's
nice.
excellent. I recommend it highly.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And
I'll
so
have to get
it's
that because I have a lot of good cello music I like to. Yeah.
I think you will approve. And our solo output has not decreased in the slightest. We just need to actually get to where we can all sit still for a little while to bang out another CD. And I know that when we get the time, then we will, because it took us less than 2 weeks to track the first one and to get it to where we were happy with it. And then we just took a little bit more time to get the CD ready and get the mixes exactly the way that we wanted them. So it's just setting aside the time and making time for that shiny thing in the midst of all the other shiny things that
Yeah.
we want to include in our
And when that
lives.
happens, I'll have to meet Alec because he's the only member of your band I haven't met yet, or I
And
haven't
you will
talked to.
you
You know,
will
so
you will get along like a house on fire without the people
yeah.
running and screaming, I think.
Okay. So
Alec
so
is Alec is the greatest.
so
I
so
I
tell
love
me more
him.
about it again. We were talking about this. So
What am I telling you more about? I
Tricky
got
Pixie.
lost.
You were
Okay.
said it says big ear.
Yes. Let's see, we have um, New York Fairy Fest this coming June is our first gig together. We had some shows together back in January because we were all out in the Pacific Northwest for a filk event called Conflict, which
Uh-huh.
is a very young filk con, but is one
I
of
like
my
that name.
favorites. It's great. It's great. And it's very tongue in cheek because when you're trying
Yeah.
to schedule on, there are always a million things going on every single weekend, and you just finally have to bite the bullet and just pick one. And I think that's where the inspiration for that name came from. But it's been an exciting year already. We got interviewed by a young musicologist who was working on her
Oh,
thesis
nice.
about the folk community and how we fit into it and how we feel about working in it. And that was back in the winter. And we're as the spring comes up, we're communicating even more with each other and getting ready to perform in New York State in June and out in the Pacific Northwest again for the entire month of
Oh,
August,
wow.
practically. And then back around my stomping grounds in Texas and Missouri, and
Ooh.
and just outside of Memphis as well.
You, you,
For the first time since 2008, we get to go back to Memphis,
you guys have to let
and
me know
that's
if you ever
that's
come
going to
up
be
Chicago way because I'm up in Illinois. So
good. I will stick you on the email list because
okay.
Alec is not too far from Chicago,
Oh, is he?
so he's actually been doing more shows there, and he and I had two concerts together near to Chicago last spring.
Well, I'm
So
about 2 hours west
more
of
of that
Chicago,
maybe.
but yeah, it's close enough.
Yeah, we'll get you there. But yeah, we have big tour activity in June, in August, and in September and October, and that's more than we've had in a long, long time.
Nice, very
And
nice.
this is all community stuff. This is conventions and fairy festivals. This is pagan festivals. This is nifty stuff.
And fairy festivals are getting to be really big too. That's another area that's growing that people don't. I don't think people realize it as much as like steampunk or some other areas, but it is a growing, thing.
Oh yeah, and fairy worlds, and just recently, a very this will be a first year event this year. A festival called Second Star that's just going to be one day long
Hmm.
in Florence, Oregon, and that one's going to be more deeply rooted in the whole J.M. Barrie Peter Pan mythos.
Oh, Second Star. Yeah, of
Yes,
course.
Tricky Pixie's going to headline that festival, and we're thrilled. Toby Froud is also going to be one of the guests,
Oh,
son of Brian and Wendy
really?
Froud.
Wow.
Yeah, Toby's got a new short film out called Lessons Learned with his own puppetry,
Ooh,
and it's
I want to
just
see
it's
that.
super cool. Yeah, it's out there, and
I have what?
I was a Kickstarter backer for that, so I'm
Oh,
proud.
nice. I have a Froud, a Brian Froud book. from Labyrinth. The
Perfect.
old book that Goblin's book, handbook and all. And I
Yeah, for anybody who doesn't know, Toby Froud, who's now, forgive me, a grown ass puppeteer all on his own, was the baby in Labyrinth. He was baby Toby.
Was he?
That was
I
him.
did not
Yes.
know that.
Yep. Yep. He's all grown up and fabulous and married, and he and his wife Sarah are delightful together, and they have a son named Sebastian, who's just a little stripy pajama baby
Who
himself.
might carry it on.
Yeah, he's a scamp little guy. He's a big flirt.
And I hear they're talking about doing a reboot of Labyrinth. That should be interesting.
Really?
Yeah, there's been noise about it for a while.
This is extremely relevant to my interests. I like the sound of that.
Yeah,
So yeah,
if they
Toby's going to be really.
if they do it well, it would be beautiful. I mean, yeah, and I think that the
Well,
people doing it would.
with the technology at hand, we know that it will at least be pretty.
Oh,
It will be
without a
so
doubt,
pretty.
without a doubt. Yeah, I mean, I've seen stuff like modern day equivalents are like Mirror Mask,
Yes, I love Mirror Mask.
beautiful. Pan's
I was
Labyrinth. I mean,
I was one of the nerds who actually went to see Mirror Mask in the theater when it had very, very limited
it
showings.
didn't play where I was. Sadly, I didn't find out about it until later. And
We were
unfortunately,
just we were in Orlando at just the right time, and I think my sweetie and I were 2 out of 4 people in the entire theater.
when was that?
But
When did it
it
come
was
out?
great.
Actually.
That was '05 or '06.
Oh yeah, it didn't come out where I
It
am
was
here.
a minute ago.
So yeah.
That's okay. I know what it's like to be where you can't get to a cultural thing unless you drive 3 to 6 hours. I know exactly what that's like. I was lamenting that Song of the Sea, the new film by the Secret of Kells folks, was not going to be playing
Hmm.
anywhere near where I am.
Yeah, that was the one that was nominated for an Oscar, despite the fact that it hadn't come out yet. That was so weird.
Yeah, that was a neat trick they did there.
Yeah, well, that was a weird one. They didn't nominate the Lego Movie, which I mean, and apparently the thing is that the rules are that it has to have actually been released and been in the theater.
Hmm.
And then they did that, and that's like, what are they doing? Well, apparently, I read up on this recently. Apparently, the Academy is really bad at how they handle animated features. They had somebody who talked with a bunch of the judges for that, the people who
Yeah.
did the nominees, and a lot of them hadn't even. And this is for past ones. A lot of them hadn't actually looked at any of the animated features, either short or long.
Wow, they're missing out. I think you and I might have read the same article,
Probably, and
actually.
I think it's a crying shame. Well, unfortunately, the United States tends to view animation as
Kid stuff.
childish. Yes, yes.
Yep.
And that's a shame because you can tell really adult stories or even just really beautiful stories with animation. And you can tell stories I think you can't tell even now with live action, no matter how far we've gone with our, with
With
our
CG
tech.
and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's things that only animation can do justice to.
Yes, there's things that only animation can pull off. And as far as animation being kid stuff, dude, that is the reason why so many of us in my generation are so weird, is because they would sit us down in front of Watership Down when we were 3, and we would be like, "What is going on? The bunny is being torn to death. I don't understand. This is scary, but I
I
love it.
saw
I'm
heavy
gonna watch
metal.
it again."
I saw the original heavy metal when I was younger. I was like, wow.
Yes! Anything that was animated was fair game. And I'm looking back on that
Yeah,
now. I'm like,
yeah.
what were you thinking? What have you done to me? Don't undo it. I love what you did to me, but don't tell anyone.
Oh, there's some crazy stuff out there, and a lot of other nations, a lot of places in Europe, and of course everyone, anime, they treat animation more adult.
As an art form.
Yes, they
Yeah.
recognize that that animation can do just as much as live action, possibly more at times.
They treat a lot of art forms as art forms
Yeah,
outside of the United States that the United States doesn't necessarily take as
we're
seriously as they
very
should.
weird.
Speaking as a musician, I can say that with some authority.
Oh yeah.
Hello, Congress. Hello, Congress. Hi.
Oh yeah, we're very weird in some of our attitudes towards certain things like that. It's very odd.
Well, that's why it's refreshing to reach out to people
It
elsewhere
is.
in the world. Not to say that I don't value every human
Oh
being
yes.
that's ever danced to a song of mine in this country, but it's really, really cool to to discover through Facebook, for instance, that I have fans in Brazil and Argentina, and I had no
Nice.
idea. I have fans in Spain. I have fans
Oh
in
yeah.
Israel.
I have listeners in South Africa and Hong Kong and Australia, and I love that I get these different viewpoints, and they are different
Yes,
viewpoints because different cultures have very different viewpoints, and it's and it comes back to respect. I mean, it's glorious to find out these different ideas, and
I agree. It's such a gift to me because I do not get to actually physically be present in countries that are not my own as
yeah,
often as I would like to. And I am so,
I'd love
so
to
grateful,
travel. I would love to.
so humbled by people's willingness to reach out to me, little me, who's just, another songwriter running loose in the world, in her little pocket of the world, just to take the time to reach out to me because I inspired them from this far away. That's huge.
It is.
And and far away can be down the street as well.
It can. It
Anybody who
can.
takes the time to reach out and tell me a story about
Hmm.
how a song of mine made their day better, I wouldn't trade that for
Oh, that's
anything.
that's always a wonderful thing too. I have a great story about that. I don't know if there's a band called Sons of Maxwell. They're
It's
a
great.
Nova Scotia band, and they do some Celtic stuff, and they do some just kind of fun rock and things like that. They have one fun thing they do called United Breaks Guitars after United Airlines broke their
Yes,
guitar, but
yes, yes, yes,
they
yes.
also have a
I remember.
they have a beautiful song called "The Lighthouse," and I shared it with my wife's mother when she was fighting breast cancer. And lighthouses were her symbol, which because of that I've made her a number of lighthouse necklaces
Oh,
because I do jewelry. So,
so sweet.
but I shared that with her, and it was nice to be able to do that. And it's just when you're able to share a song like that, it makes a big difference.
And more power to you and anyone who finds their own meaning in a song. I have my own stories that go along with the things that I come up
I
with,
bet.
but that doesn't mean I want those to be the only stories that they have.
Oh yeah.
And I know there are a lot of people who are very attached to the way that their art comes across, and a lot of people who want things to go a certain way and can't let go of it. I think that you limit yourself
I
when you
think you
do
do.
that.
I have a saying is that no matter how much I like something, I can appreciate a parody or a weird cover of it because nothing is entirely sacred. You have to be able to laugh, you have to be able to smile. So that, and because of that, I have weird parodies and covers of all kinds of things, and I love the original, but I kind of like this weird version of it too.
Yes.
Nothing is entirely sacred. Don't you got to relax and step back and laugh a little at it, and yeah.
There's a very silly and possibly hard to find cover of "With or Without You" by U2
Hmm.
by a group from the Twin Cities, from Minneapolis, St. Paul, called the group is called Reverse Cowboy, and they did a cover of this that's got this kind of funky little samba beat behind it.
Uh-huh.
It's the cutest thing ever, and there's some friends of mine that I play it for, and they just cannot handle it.
What's the artist again?
The group is called Reverse Cowboy.
Verse Cowboy, and
Reverse Cowboy.
song is With or
The
Without You.
song, yeah, it's a U2 cover
I'm gonna
of "With or Without You."
I'm gonna grab that because
And
I specialize in weird covers. I have
let me know if you can find it because I have the
oh
file somewhere and I can't.
I can find anything. Believe me, I have
We have ways of finding the
oh yeah,
file.
I have yeah, death metal covers of James Bond themes. I have
Yes.
a pan flute cover of Staying Alive. I have things you would not believe exist, but they do.
Don't do a search for that on the internet. It'll come out wrong. It'll be very, very dirty.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
There's actually I'm looking at a CD on my shelf right now that has a metal cover of a James Bond movie theme. So fist bump on that.
Is it 10 Masked Men?
No, it's a band called Nature that I found the CD in the 90s when I was in high
Huh.
school, and they did a cover of "You Only Live Twice." That's the
Oh,
first track on the
I'd love to
CD.
get that. I'm a massive James Bond fan. I have every theme song that's from every movie in order. Every time a new movie comes out, I play every theme song in order and talk about it. So,
Dude, oh, that's fantastic.
I'm
That's a hell of a project right there because they keep coming.
yes, they do, and
They keep
they're
coming.
beautiful. All the different themes too. They and they've there's real stories to them and interesting stories just about the music itself.
No joke. That is a very specialized art form right there
It
that
is.
nonetheless is different every single time.
But I have just the weirdest thing. Ten Masked Men is this band out of Britain, and they've have like 5 albums, and they're all the names for all the albums are puns on Star Wars movies. And what they do is they do death metal covers of pop songs, so things like pop songs, disco tunes. There's always at least one James Bond theme on every album. Get
Yeah.
rap songs, and it's just my favorite though is their cover of Blue. Because it's blue dabba dee dabba die dabba dee dabba die dabba dee dabba die, and I'm singing along, just because it's so wrong and it's so right.
I love it. I love it when you can when you can make that happen in your brain.
Yes,
I really have all the love for people that find a new way to present something like that.
but yeah, I have like there's weird lounge lizard like covers and samba like covers. There's a band. Hold on, where are they? You ever heard of Humpa?
No, tell me.
It's a style of music from, oh, I'm spelling it wrong again. Humpa. I always spell it wrong. There's this band, I can't pronounce it. Elakelaisset. Look them up, and
Okay.
it's a style of music. They're from is it Sweden or I have so much stuff from elsewhere. Let me see it. They're Finnish. They're Finnish, and
Haha,
it's
yes.
a style of like Finnish ska polka, and they're
Wow.
doing weird, bizarre. They're actually parodies, but since I can't understand it, they might as well be covers. And they're doing weird covers of things like I have a version of the Macarena in Finnish polka ska, and that's just like, what the heck am I listening to?
I'm trying to make my brain imagine this.
But yeah, it's just they have the weirdest stuff, and that's like you're like, this exists. Wow, this
No kidding.
exists.
The Scandinavian folk bands are just killer.
Oh, they
And
are.
that's I've
Oh,
been following a few of them since college and
I do entire
I it just
shows.
blows my mind.
I do entire shows about like bagpipe rock or
Yes, you do.
folk rock, and it's just like there's amazing diversity among that, and like I have like a Spanish communist ska punk band, and it's
Wow.
just there's crazy wonderful stuff out there.
There's no end to the combinations that you can make art with.
There isn't, but
And there are 18 million new genres come up with every single day.
I believe it.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I have a
That's one
friend
thing why I'm a little
I have
leery
a
about genre, because there's too many genres. You can't really fit stuff. You were saying,
well,
I'm sorry.
we like it. No, it's okay. We like to put names on
We
things
do.
because we are taught from our oldest stories that if you put a name on something, if you
Power.
know
Names
the
have
name
power.
of a thing, you have power over
And
it,
now we're at fairies
and it
again.
cannot have power over you. Yep. See how that works? See how that works? Magic.
Yeah, but names have powers, and it is a very human thing to want to label stuff. And also, we're very this or that. I always say, don't go this or that, go this and that. Things don't have to be opposites. Things can work together. You don't have, not everything has to be, this or that.
It's
This
very true.
and that is the big, because,
Yes, life is
yeah,
too short to just pick one thing.
yeah, it's not smart or cool. It's smart
And
and
if it
cool.
makes you happy to pick one thing, then that's fine. But
Oh, yeah.
don't feel like you have to pick one thing.
Oh, yeah. But the big thing that we have you on for, and I should probably get to because we're already been on for a while, is
Yeah,
you have a new album,
I do, and
and we've mentioned it.
it's one of my babies that I'm very proud of, and it's called Stolen Season, which makes a beautiful dovetail from the names having power conversation. Because let me just let me tell you that I will never name an album anything like Stolen Season ever again.
Why?
And not and expect it to come out when I want it to. Expect not to be done with it myself, but expect it to be done with me in any kind of timely fashion.
How many seasons did it steal from you?
Dude, some of the music that is on this project goes all the way back to 2010. Some of the songs, well, no, but see, the thing is, I started recording it all the way back in let me see, all the way back in 2011, like January 2011.
That's still not
was when
too
I started
bad. I mean,
working.
there's movies that have been worked for like 20 or 30 years. Like, that's not too bad.
That's fair. That's fair.
There's albums.
You're making me feel better.
there's albums that didn't come out for like a decade or two. So I mean, I when I work, I leave the music channels on, so I have something in the background, partly to drown out the birds. And but they wind up showing trivia, and I'm learning so many different things just from all that trivia that they show. So don't feel too bad. Actually, 3 years, 4 years, that's not bad.
Well, thank you. And this is in the midst of finishing other projects and releasing other albums that were ready sooner than this one was. So I should absolutely cut myself some slack there. You are right. Thank you.
So tell me about it.
Okay. Well, this is my fairy tale folk and jazz album, which is a little bit different from what I've done before. There's more blues influence that's very apparent with this record, and I love that I finally got a chance to bring that out, because it is in my soul, and there are other things that are lurking in my soul that are waiting their turn.
Well, just the names. I'm going to read the names. I got to read the names. Black Swan Blues, Dream of Mississippi, Sultry Summer Night, Believe in Lullabies, Girl into Devil, I Belong into Me, Wild River Child. I like the alliteration on that, by the way. Temptress. That one right there is going into my collection of. I have a whole big collection that I call. What is it? I can't. Torch Singers.
Thank you.
And
gosh.
Yeah, Stolen Season.
That's exactly what I was after with Temptress, was a torch song.
Oh, it is. It's wonderfully done. Handsome Rogue, and that is a classic archetype of fairy tales, of course.
Totally.
Little Bird and Believe in Lullabies. After Hours. The names are evocative.
Thank you. I used to be really naughty about how I named my songs, and I would come up with these grandiose sweeping titles that had nothing to do with the lyrics, and I would do it on purpose. And that works for a lot of people. But it's a good tried and true method for some folks and some artists. But in my case, people are going to find their own name for a song if you don't give it a name that makes sense in the first place. So it's, if I hadn't called The Pixie Can't Sleep, I would have called it Insomniac Slua Blues, which would have made sense to no one, and they would have called it The Pixie Can't Sleep anyway. So, and I'm trying to be very consistent in naming songs after things that are actually contained within them.
It's funny about that, actually, because apparently we were talking James Bond.
Yes.
The second movie they did, Thunderball, the original theme song for that wasn't the Tom Jones Thunderball. It was actually, I have it. I'm not going to look it up right now, though. But the original song, you actually hear just the music during the movie at different points, because they decided not to get rid of that. And I have the original song too. But the original song had nothing to do with the title or the action, and they decided that they needed to work the title into either the lyrics or the title of the song. So they had him do that last minute, which is why the song has nothing to do with the movie at all, except the title. With the action of the movie. It's just it's like when they books. Go to fantasy books, go to an artist, or sci-fi books, go to an artist and just say, give us this, and it looks nothing like what's in the book because
they didn't have time to read it, or other factor.
The artist is given the most bare bones description and has to run with it.
Yeah, because there are deadlines.
Yeah,
there are deadlines, and they're coming to get you.
Oh yeah. So you're actually trying to make them fit there, and
Yes, in this case, I wanted it to be as accessible as possible and make the most sense. Because there are folks out in the world who are predisposed to love what I do. There are folks who already love what I do, and they're tribe, they're geeks, they're fire spinners, they're burners, they're fairies, they're literary folk. They're people who like lyrics that they can sink their teeth into, lyrics that have some substance,
oh yeah, I love it.
and
I love
music
it.
music that's not grandiosely
Oh, yeah.
overproduced and
I mean,
all that stuff.
I like a song with some nonsense lyrics. It could be fun.
Yeah,
I love a good nonsense song, but sometimes you also want a good ballad, a song that tells a story or that
right.
has lyrics that you might not understand.
Something and lyrics that are more than baby, baby, baby.
Yeah, lyrics that actually evoke images to you. One of my favorite songs is Tears for Fears, "Break It Down Again." I don't know what the song is about, but the lyrics speak to me.
I love when you can find something that you can enjoy whether you understand it or not.
Yeah.
That's again back to the Scandinavian bands one more time.
Oh
I
yeah.
love the hell out of their stuff and I have no idea what's
I
going on
listen to
and it doesn't matter.
oh yeah, I listen to so much German and Italian and Japanese and Scandinavian and
Yeah,
all
man.
these other things. I have no idea what they're saying, but I like it how it sounds.
Yep, that's all that matters if it makes you happy. But so there are people that are predisposed to love what I do, but I'm
Yeah.
hoping to catch with this particular CD full of honey. I'm hoping to catch some flies that might not have found me otherwise.
Okay.
And the best way to do that is to let it show what the songs are about before anybody even gives them a chance. And so with the song titles, that was one of the things that I really, really wanted to do.
So have you thought about like what's your favorite song on there?
Oh man.
That's
Oh.
now that I know that's a hard question, and
Ha.
if you ask me to pick my favorite something, I would probably hem and haw and not be able to answer. So I understand if you can't.
Well, it's killer. Well, I'll give you more than one answer
Okay.
because I don't know if I can do any better than that. Uh, Wild River Child was the last of the songs to
Oh,
come together, and she was the last one to get written. I didn't even know that that song was going to be on the album until last August because that song didn't even
but
exist
sometimes
until
art lets
last
it be born.
August. Yeah, and there she was, and she had on her slinky dress, and she was like, "I'm ready, let's go." And I said, "Okay, you want to go drown a couple sailors?" And she said, "Yeah." And I said, "All right, let's go."
And
It's
she just
and someone else in another interview earlier this week that I'm working on the questions for now to
oh.
be included on a blog asked me, so what's up with this? There's a lot of your work that goes with the theme of drowning. Are you trying to tell us something? And I'm paraphrasing here, but I thought, I hadn't really thought about that before, but there are there are a whole lot of sirens and dangerous mermaids in my work, and I wanted to give one to the rivers and
What
the swamps that are close to where I grew up. And I,
if
I
you
grew up in the land of
yeah
rivers,
well you
so it's autobiographical at the same time because I do the first lines in that song are I come from the land of the wild river gods,
oh yeah.
where the joker was never a throwaway card.
And if you're going to get into fairies, you're going to run into the fact that not a lot of fairies don't play nice, and
Yeah.
they like to lure, and they like to sing, and they are often they often tempt you. They bring you in, and a lot of them are a lot of the water based ones are you got your pukas and your kelpies and your mermaids and your sirens. A lot of them have that in common. They bring us down into the water, and I think that's partly because we have this old fear of the water. I mean, it used to be
Yeah.
we forget that it used to be that most people could not swim. If a sailor went into the water, that was it.
Hmm.
You know,
And these stories came across the water with our ancestors as
oh
well.
yeah,
And so legitimately, this is part of Southern folklore. If you think about it in a certain way, the Scotch Irish and the Scottish and the Irish who
oh
came
yeah.
over and settled in the South, they brought these fairies with them. They brought these
So
stories
many
with them. They
tales
brought
of
these creatures with them.
people who
So it's
falling into rivers and being washed away, and you don't see them, and you don't know. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and which creature might or might not have been responsible for that. So
yeah.
it is in hindsight more legitimate than I realized it was going to be for me to write a song about a water creature who is from the river delta. and that's who she is. That's who this particular spirit is, and I don't know her
But
name.
it's
I
not
don't
necessarily
know her
about death
origins,
either,
but it
because
doesn't
like
matter.
drowning, is a great metaphor for a lot of things.
Yeah, and romance particularly.
Oh,
And there's
exactly.
there's 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 romance all through this album. That's one of the reasons that it took so much out of me, is that I was going through some pretty intense emotional and personal stuff when I was composing these songs.
I think the best
And
art often
so,
comes out of that, though.
dude, it and I rarely I'm most of the time I'm so busy writing about fairies and Peter Pan and stories and fun stuff that I don't take time to process my own emotional what's going on through my art.
Hmm.
And in some ways that's good, because I would hate to write the same love song over and over.
Yeah.
But in other ways it was time. It was really, really time. And I'm grateful that I managed to carve out the time and the space, and that the result is being so far very kindly and well received by people who knew who I was already, and also people who didn't.
So Wild River Child is one. What's the other? Was there just two, or were there more than two?
Well, they're for the most part they're all really, really different. There's a commonality of vibe and sound with, say, Sultry Summer Night and Believe in Lullabies, which were about two different instances in the same relationship, so it makes sense. But that I love them all for different reasons and different characteristics. But the one that I want to crow about really is Little Bird, which is completely
Oh.
different from any of the other songs on the album. It is the most upbeat. It is one of the shortest. It's one of the ones that I hope is going to get people up and dancing. And a lot of the rest of the album, while listening to it, it might not necessarily occur to them to dance, but with Little Bird it will,
Hmm.
because it's about getting up and shaking your tail and spreading your wings and not being scared to be as big and bright and crazy as you
And hey,
possibly can.
my wife and I are bird owners. We love our birds. I'm a massively avid bird watcher. I'm actually known for being the guy who knows about geese around here, and I
Yeah.
love, like I mentioned Vinny the vulture, turkey vulture at the wildlife place. Birds are a big thing for us, so we understand
Well,
that.
you're gonna have to tell me how your birds react to this song
I
when they
will.
hear it,
I
'cause I'm
will. You
curious.
never know what's going to set them off. Like they certain songs just set them off, and you don't know why. They like whistles. Maui actually learned to whistle "Bridge Over the River Kwai" after hearing it on the TV once.
Oh,
He
clever
al-
baby.
he also imitates the microwave being programmed to tell me I'm in the kitchen. He imitates the squeak of the door. We have seven birds, by the way. Now one of ours passed
Uh-huh.
away in January. Six, sorry,
Yes,
no
I'm
six.
sorry.
I'm sorry. One of them passed away in January. She'd been with us a long time, so she had a good life. Yeah.
I bet she did. She couldn't have a better life than being there with you
Thank you.
guys.
But yeah, he imitates he imitates the he's well known from my listeners because he likes to whistle the Imperial March, the Star Wars Imperial March, and I have recordings
Yes.
of it, and I've worked it into a few remixes and such. And he tries to imitate the budgies, the parakeets, but he doesn't do a good job of it, so it comes out really weird.
Oh no.
But he,
Well, you could be YouTube famous in no time with that little guy.
he's a funny old bird though. He is great. I am the center of his universe.
No.
I'm his human, and Rachel is Vinny's human. There's two Vinnies. Sorry, there's Vinny the turkey vulture and Vinny our cockatiel.
Yes.
We have
Okay.
two
Two
different,
two vastly
very
different
different Vinnies.
Vinnies.
Yeah, yeah. But
Turkey vultures and black vultures are actually pretty cool to me,
oh yeah,
because but we have a lot of them around where I live,
oh I love watching
and
them
they've
reel.
they've
We do
they've always
here
been around,
too.
and they're native to the area
They've re
of
they
Arkansas where I live.
in recent years we've had a bunch of move into the area, and it turns out they're nesting in a quarry nearby. And
Oh,
but
cool.
Vinny thinks he's a human, and he will nibble your shoelaces, and he comes up to me, and I have like wonderful videos of him and pictures, and I have a video where he nearly ate one of my cameras.
Oh, oh, Vinny, no. Vinny,
Yeah,
no.
yeah.
That's not roadkill. Don't
But
do it.
he's a ham. He's a sweet bird. If you go over to the outside port, he lives in the barn, and you go over to the
Uh-huh.
outside portion, and if you pretend to start to leave, that's when he comes out.
Oh gosh.
He knows. He knows, and he shows off, and he's a total ham, and he's a
Well, they
wonderful bird.
my I'll tell you one of the reasons that I think vultures are the bomb, and that's according to some of the First Nation folklore that I have encountered.
Oh,
Vulture is the only animal to ever have tricked the trickster.
really?
Yes, and that story is out there, and you should look that up
I
because I think
will.
you would really get a kick out of
I
it.
will, because yeah, I am a trickster by nature myself.
Yes, you are.
So
We all have a little trickster in us, and there's nothing wrong with that.
oh, we do. There's a band actually I picked up recently that was very big on that. Hold on, let me look them up real quick. Uh, Three Daft Monkeys.
Oh, what a great name!
Oh yeah, Three Daft Monkeys, and they do a lot of counterculture and they blend a lot of different world musics, and they have a song called "World on Its Head," which is all about being the trickster. But a lot of their
Yeah.
stuff is like rebelling against like Big Brother watching us and things like that. I only just discovered them a few months ago myself. They're from they are I want to say Welsh, but no, I don't think so. Oh, and it's what's it doing? Uh, they are from they're Cornish. Sorry, Cornish, and
Aha,
they
yes.
combine
Oh,
ska
wait,
and
oh, wait.
reggae and all kinds of fun stuff. And yeah, check them out. Three Daft Monkeys. There's some of their videos are on YouTube. Um,
That's
and
great. You gotta watch those. You gotta watch those Cornishmen.
yeah, oh yeah, they do some fun stuff. They really do. Where was I?
Well,
Uh,
keep looking. I have a Tricky Pixie anecdote for you.
oh,
Since
please, by all
since we
means.
since we're talking about Cornishmen, our first show over in the UK back in 2012 was in Cornwall.
Oh wow.
And we made a mistake because we went to Cornwall first, and I did not want to leave because Cornwall is incredible, and I love Cornwall, and I'm going back. But because that was our first concert of our tiny little tour that we did over there in 2012, we decided that the band name for that one night was not Tricky Pixie anymore; it was Frisky Pisky
I
because that was appropriate to the folklore of the area, and we were down with the folklore of the area. Yes, we were.
cool. Very cool.
So that's one of the memories I brought back with me. But speaking of YouTube, keep an eye on my channel,
Okay.
which SJ Tucker Official is kind of the name of it, but not really because I was lazy when YouTube offered me the custom URL and I didn't jump on it when I had the chance.
Uh,
But that's if you search for that, you'll find me. But Little Bird is going to be the track from Stolen Season that has an official music
I
video.
was going to ask that right now.
Yes, yes, it's gonna be a mixture of live action and stop motion
Ooh.
animation of origami puppets
Oh,
by
nice.
two of my fans that have become really, really good friends and colleagues who are based in St. Louis. Savriel and Meg Carroll are doing all of the hard stuff. They've created origami puppets and they're doing all the stop motion. All I had to do was help them buy the camera. They're not even asking me for money. It's crazy.
Oh, that's
But
nice.
it's so cute. And we got together a couple of weeks ago in St. Louis when I was up there for a performance and filmed a little bit more and some stuff with me playing the song live in front of a pond full of geese and ducks who seemed to be having a good time.
And I'm a big
So
duck and
that's
geese
that's
person, as
going to
I
be
mentioned. So hey,
yeah, and you would be right at home at my house because there's a lake right outside my back door, and we
ours
have
too.
all manner of waterfowl hanging out.
We have a
So
pond right. We have a pond right out back.
if we can just figure out how to get the portal working between your lake and mine, then we can hang out all the time.
Okay. Yeah, I love waterfowl. I get great pictures. I have great pictures of the American coots when they come through here, and the geese. I often walk among the geese and I talk to them and I feed them, and uh, I've actually had them eat out of my hand, the little ones, which is amazing.
Oh, babies,
Uh,
goslings. There should be goslings pretty soon.
oh yes, yes, they're
Goslings are
wonderful.
coming.
We've had a hard winter here, so I think that we have a little ways to go before we'll have some up here.
Yeah.
But it should be soon. It should be, and it'll be. I love the babies, and we get the ducks, and we get the pied-billed grebes here too, which I can never get good pictures of because they're very shy.
We've got a mallard. I've named him Mo, and and everybody's wild. Everybody's wild and scared because we have this thing called hunting season
Oh
in
no.
Arkansas, and people tend to forget that there are fences there selectively. So when they're hanging out at our place during hunting season, they're hanging out at our place because our place is safe, and because they
Ah,
know that our place is safe. Because throughout the years, our place has always been safe.
ah.
But I
And they
think
know.
I
They
think that
learn.
yeah, I think that Mo ran afoul of somebody because he's not flying quite right.
Oh
And he
dear.
doesn't really get much lift when he tries to take off from the lake when we spook him.
Hmm.
But we just try to reassure him that he's totally safe and
Sometimes
that
all
he
you
can
could.
stay and be hurt around us as long as he needs to.
Sometimes that's
And
all you can
hopefully
do.
he'll
We've often gotten wood ducks and mallard ducks and geese at the wildlife place,
yeah.
and they get brought in sometimes as goslings. So like I see them like when they're like really tiny and they get bigger, and I have to chase them and carry them. Oh dear.
No.
By the way, geese have claws.
Noted.
Yeah, I've had to carry one big scratch all the way down my arm. Ow!
Oh,
Oh,
well, we
ooh,
we
yeah.
have um we have also three amazing cats at my house, and number three is a new addition. And he walked in out of nowhere off of a rainbow somewhere and said, "I'm home."
I
And we barricaded the cat door 2 nights. Every morning he's asleep on the couch when we wake up. And we're like, "Okay, all right, we're taking you to the vet." And he said, "Okay." But kitty number two is our big guy, and our big fluffy Maine Coon type guy, and his name is Pushka.
oh.
And Pushka did the cartoon thing one day where you can see the cat watch the bird turn into a roast on a spit in front of his eyes. But it was a goose. It was a goose, and we were like, "No, Pushka, no, no, don't do it."
Yeah.
And it was another hunting
I
season
I would
story
I would
because
put my money on the goose. Geese can be
I was putting my money on the goose too, which is why
yeah.
I'm glad he didn't go for it. But he started doing that thing where they sing the bug song.
Oh, there are
You
places that
know
use
cats,
yeah.
you know
Oh,
the bug song.
oh yeah. There
And he
there are
started doing
places that
that.
use geese as guard dogs. You do not want to mess with them.
No, I would not. But this guy, this particular gander was, we think, hunting for his sweetheart because the day
Oh
before that had been the
dear.
last day of hunting season, and I think they
Oh,
took off
poor
over the
guy.
swamp, made a terrible decision, and the worst happened. And then he hung out with us for weeks and just walked around having a conversation on his own. And
Oh,
the gist of it, as
yeah.
far as I could tell, was, "Hey, have you seen her? She's about this high, really, really cute.
Hey dear,
Let
you're
me
lost.
know. Let me know if she comes by, okay?" And
We have that term when we bring one of the birds into another room and the other bird calls to them and they call back. It's like you're lost, you're lost, you're lost, you're lost. Hello, you're lost. And yeah, that's it. I exactly know that feeling.
we need to be able,
This past
people
season
need to be able to do that.
yeah
People need to be able to do that for each other.
this past season we had a hard one. We found a baby goose that we brought in and it had a bad leg. Unfortunately, he didn't make it, sadly.
Oh,
But we had several others, and we had there were seven goslings in all that did make it this season.
oh, that's great.
Two of them kept to themselves. The other five, three came in on their own, and two came in together. But they wound up
Wow.
becoming a little flock, and they would follow you around. And if you ran, they'd run after you. And
Ah.
so, like some days, I would have to go over and I'd have to pick bunny greens for the rabbits. And so I'd sit down and I'd put the basket down and I'd start eating, start picking bunny greens, and they would follow me over and they'd start helping,
Oh gosh.
which means eating the greens as I pick them.
Hopeful goslings. Oh dear.
Yeah, that
You were
helping as we
you were
say.
stuck. You were trapped in a circle of cute though.
Yes, I was. I couldn't turn them back. I was just they
Wow.
were helping me.
And they were happy about it, I'm sure.
Oh, they were. For the other thing they love to do, and I don't know why, but I would stand there and they would come up and they would nip at my shoes and pull at my pants leg,
Wow.
and they got a kick out of that, and I have no idea why.
It was a game that you didn't know the rules of,
No,
but
I
you were
didn't.
part of regardless.
I did not know the rules of the game.
And the goslings won, humans zero.
That's the way it usually works.
Yep, I get that feeling.
So we should probably wrap up soon because I've had you on here for nearly 2 hours.
Yeah, and it's been a great 2 hours.
It has, but I think my wife is
Thank you
getting
so
hungry.
much. Okay, that's all right. We'll all break for food. It's
So,
necessary.
well, I is there anything else you'd like to say about your album that you have out right now that you really want to tell people about it?
Well, please, everybody, come and listen. I've got it up for free in so many places. I've got a YouTube playlist that you can just run through the whole thing if you want to. I've got it all up on SoundCloud. Same deal with a playlist.
I've played the whole
And
album like 2 or 3 times. Each show I've had over the last few days, I've played it. I'm like, listen to this.
thank you so much for
And
that.
that's the thing too. Something that people forget is that albums are meant to be heard as albums. It's
Yeah.
it's nice and all to listen to a single song sometimes, but sometimes you need to listen to an album as an album.
Yes. And if you have the time for that, and this is the album you want to listen to, I highly encourage it.
So do I.
And if anybody wants to pick it up, pick up the CD or download it, music.sjtucker.com is the place. And as for the SoundCloud and all the other stuff, if you just do a search for my name, it should come up.
I highly recommend it. I have no idea what genre it is, and that's okay. It is
the one that I like. If you would like one, the one that I came up with
yes.
is fairy tale folk and jazz.
Fairy tale folk and jazz. I almost think it's fairy tale blues because it's
You can say fairy tale blues.
Fairy tale blues.
I like that too.
It's got that. I see a bunch of fairies on a riverboat, gambling. That's what I see.
I love you.
I see a bunch of fairies on a riverboat gambling, and I totally see our little wild child there pulling someone over the railing.
So if that statement and repeated listening of this album results in some amazingness on DeviantArt and Tumblr, we want to see it.
Oh,
I especially want to see it.
Without a doubt.
Yes.
I have DeviantArt too, so I put all my stuff on there. So yeah.
Perfect. Yum. Yes, fairies on a riverboat. I love it. I want it.
I really can see it though, just chugging along with all these different characters, and it's like you ever seen like an ensemble or like where you go through the different stories type of movie, and you have each story and each one focuses on a different character, and you have an ensemble cast, and that's what I see it as.
Well, I'll tell you a secret then. I have. In the perfect world, in the anthropomorphic half fairy jazz club that exists in my brain, there is. I love how you didn't even question that.
No, why not?
There is a music video for "Believe in Lullabies" that starts out with the classic noir. The guy comes up to the bar in his fedora, and everything's in black and white, and he's obviously depressed, and the bartender pours him a shot, and he stays there and broods, and the band starts up on the stage, and Believe in Lullabies is the song that comes out. And at some point in the video, the guy at the bar makes contact with the singer, and she winks at him, and as soon as that happens, he can see that everyone on the dance floor is a fairy. Everyone on the dance floor has wings or horns or a tail or something.
I think I would make one change to that. I think I would mash together time periods because like I think I would put him in more of a late 1800s garb because I can see it crossed with noir.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice. So then we'd drag the steampunk folks in with that.
Yeah. Because I can see that happening. Noir punk.
Yes. Ooh, love it.
And I love noir. I'm a big movie buff. My wife and I both are. So, I'm going back to the silent era and everything. I'm a massive movie buff. So, by the way, something I wanted to point out before I leave you. I noticed that Stolen Season is the longest track on Stolen Season. And I think that's very appropriate.
Thank you. Yeah, there was no way to get that one in under 7 minutes.
And like you said,
I would have tried my best, but it was an epic tale that needed to be told.
Yeah, and it makes so much sense that it is the longest for this, epic, this album that took you a while to get out. And what? Sometimes you can't rush art. It comes in its own moment. I make things, as I mentioned, and sometimes I get pieces to work with, and I don't know what I want them to what they will be, but I know it's going to be something
Yes.
eventually, and I keep it. And sometimes I keep things for years and years until suddenly the perfect project appears before me, and I know what it's going to be. And it's going to be this necklace or this brooch or this something. I all of a sudden I know what this has to be.
Yes.
You
And
don't.
sometimes you just have to wait.
Yeah.
You just have to let it do its thing and cook in the cauldron. Wild River Child, I had those first two lines for 3 years before the rest of the song showed
You go.
up, and then it just all came out in a rush.
There you go.
Same
We,
thing.
we try to rush everything now, but sometimes stuff takes time and you got to do it right. And if you rush it, it's not going to do right.
And it's not going to be what you wanted it to be
Oh yeah.
in your highest
So
hopes.
many so many video games and movies and such were ruined by being rushed.
Mm,
They
truth.
rushed them and they had the flaws and they didn't have the editing right and it's just you can't do that sometimes. You have to take the
Yeah.
time and when people rush it, you're going to get an imperfect creation.
Give it time.
And by the way, I play. I'm a role player. My wife and I both are. I
Yeah.
play Changeling, and I don't know if you know it,
Oh,
but they have knockers,
yep.
and the knocker is the epitome of an artist because they're never it. The real flaw to me, their big frailty is that anything they make has a flaw, and the
Yes.
thing to me is that says is that it might work perfectly well, but the knocker always sees the flaw, and that's the artist. The artist
Yep.
always thinks that it could be better. The artist always thinks that anything they do could be better.
And that's why we keep making art.
Exactly.
That's what drives us. What a beautiful way to close this out.
So I want to thank you so much for coming on with me, and I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to actually probably chop this up to get it onto YouTube because it's not. I don't think they take a track this long. At least I don't. Not from my account. I don't have a. But
there's a way to get permission to do it, I think.
there is. I'll have to look
There's
into that.
ways.
But until I do, I will put it up in parts, and I will also put it up. I will be playing it on the air, and after I play it, I'm going to play the entire album.
Perfect. You're the
Which is
best.
ironic because now they're hearing me saying this, or they will be hearing me saying this in the you know what fairies they have no sense of time. Forget it.
No, no. We'll just say thank you past selves for creating this and making this be.
Agreed. And thank you so much for being on. I'm going to stop the recording
Such a pleasure, David. Thank
now.
you.